So we have seen how to create sprints or how we can work in a Kanban board to work on items. However, the end result of multiple sprints, for example, or the end result of completing the items in a Kanban board should be a release. That moment when you are ready with the items and you can ship the product for the end customer. Jira has a way of doing this for a project. So we have here the project open. We go to releases. And as you can see, we have no release at the moment. So let's create a release. Release 1. And now we can add a start date and a release date if we want, or a description. So let's create a couple. We make release 1 with nothing, release 2 with start date, release 3 with a start date and possible release date. As you can see, we can not add a release date which is before the start date. It's good that Jira points that out to us. And let's add one release with a description. Okay, perfect. So you see here we have now 4 releases. Per default, all the releases have the status unreleased, which means, well, like the name suggested, they have not been released yet. So let's release one of them. Release or build and release, both do actually the same thing. So let's do release. We need to enter a release date in case we have not entered one already. And this is now released. So if we would go to this quick filter where it says released, we would see only the released versions, and the unreleased, we only see the unreleased versions. We can also archive. So now that release has been archived. But let's do something else right now. And that is, let us add a couple of items to a release. So how do we do that? In order to add an item to a release, you need to open the item, go to edit. Here we need to see if we can find the release, or in our case actually called fixed version. So we can see here the unreleased versions and the released versions. So let's add this item to release number 3, and this one as well to release number 3. So how do we know if the item has been added? Well, firstly, we see now the fixed version here and the release number 3. We can add also from here if we want. We can add the other release number 4. And if we want to see all the items which are in a release, we can just from here go to the overview. It's actually a filter. So it has a project and it shows all the items with a specific fixed version. Or from our project, if we select the version, we can see also here an overview of all the items in the release. And the items are grouped or are shown based on status. So we have 2 issues in the version, and out of the 2 issues, all of them are in to do. Well, let's close one to see what happens. You can just refresh this page. And as we can see now, we have 1 issue in done and 1 issue in to do. So let's say we have achieved the release date, and even though we still have 1 issue that needs to be done, we will do the release. So we can make the release from here. And in this case, since we have a release, or better said, since we have items in the release that have not been resolved, we have the possibility to either ignore and proceed or to move them to another release. So let's move them to release number 4. And as you can see here, the release date is taken as the release date that we originally entered, but we can still change that if we wanted to. And if we press release, now we have the version also released. A very important thing, or a very important feature that Jira provides to us, are release notes. What are release notes? Well, release notes provide us with an overview. Let's click on them to see. So it provides us with an overview of the items that are in the release. This is very handy in case, well, you want to provide also to your end customers what you did in the release, or what items are in the release. And this is pretty easy to see with 2 items, but imagine you would have 50 items here, and they would be all grouped per type. So right now we had only stories, but let's go back to the releases. To the under-release, we have release number 4, and let's add to the release a couple of tasks and issues, and let's then release it. So we have here an epic and a task, and as before, we can either add a fixed version from here or via the edit. Let's do it from here. We have only 1 unreleased version, and again here. Now let's go back to the overview and go to the version. As you can see, we have 3 issues. Yeah. We can even now, without releasing, we can still see the release notes. And as I mentioned before, so you see all of the items which are in the release grouped by type. And you also have the HTML format that you can copy to another document, and you can use it from there. So this is all that I wanted to show you about releases. And in the next one, we'll have a look at issues. See you in the next one.